Good morning. I decided to do this video because, as anyone at this point knows, my stance on what is in the best interest of the children. And because children cannot read, it is up to us as adults to interpret and to teach. There are some things that I will address directly to the children because I want it to be in my words and there to be no misunderstanding. I speak English. That is the only language that I know. I also understand that my words will be translated in other languages, in every other language all over the world. But to understand my words for yourself, you must learn English. English is the universal language of our land at this time. If you want to do anything, any business, if you do not know English, you are going to be limited. You are going to be in those boundaries that people, that adults have placed us under. So to break that chain for yourself, because the chain was broken on June the 10th, 1977, the day that my mother, Mary Drew Loken, gave birth to me. Every chain was broken in that moment. Just as my life experiences are to guide you as a tool and resource, just as everyone else in your life is a tool and resource, it is up to you as an individual, the path that you choose. You limit God, and understanding that God has been called many things throughout time. What you know him to be is what adults have forgotten is God is magic. Because as children, we don't understand God. We don't understand religion. We don't understand faith. But we do understand something that was not there. And then it is becomes something else. That is something that all children experiences. That is what we experience when we see growth. That is why it is important for our children to understand and be a part of nature. That is something that every school district should incorporate is horticulture, starting at a young age, because what it does, what it did for me, to answer the question, how did I know God to be God? How did I know God to be true? And so I'm going to do something different, is I'm going to start my conversation with the children and leading up as they grow, as we grow, intellectually, mentally, and spiritually. There is going to be a time that you will not understand the words that I'm saying. And you are not supposed to, because it is that term that we heard when we were growing up. Stop trying to grow up so fast. When you hear my words, when you read my words, if you cannot understand them at that time, well, let me rephrase that. You understand them at the level in which you are mentally, spiritually, and intellectually. Walk in that. Don't let anyone tell you what you should know. Because what every adult knows is that you only know what you know when you know it. So now you have to now take responsibility for that as an adult. So at the end of the video, I will go into more detail I knew that I had to do this video, but I was unsure what I was going to say or the structure. And that was the dilemma, rather. That was the emotional part for me. And I want to use that as an example to demonstrate that for me, in the moments when I get emotional, it is because I want people to understand. Not only understand, I want them to see in my walk, in my talk, everything that I do, I have done not for me. It has always been for the greater good. As we get older, our responsibilities change. Some adults do not want to accept that. And if that is you, that is why you are stuck in the place in which you are. Because if you are not willing to live in truth and reality, it will keep you in that place. Because once you become aware of something, you make a conscious decision to move. And that direction is yours alone to choose. So I will start the conversation addressing the children. And the articulation or my words, meaning, interpretation, and understanding will change for you as you get older and you mature. And when I say mature, I am not talking about sexually. And if any of my words that you hear, if the first thought that comes to your mind or out of your mouth is negative, and it refers to me, and if it is something that I have not shown you directly, just know that you are lying to yourself. And that does not bother me one bit. It does not change the fact who I am. It does not change the fact that I love you. It does not change the fact that everything I've done in my life, I did it so that you can have what you have. And I didn't even know it. But when I did know it and come to understand it, I kept going. Because what I do understand and what every person needs to understand is no one does anything alone. Donald Trump is in office of the President of the United States. I've always stood by my words that I've said. And as I said months ago, Donald Trump, Lindsey Graham, and Mitch McConnell, the life that you meant for those less fortunate is the life that you are going to live out. But what I had to come to understand is that is my desire, and it will come. But until then, you may think that you are doing your will, but my Father will use it for His. We see that. This pandemic was intended to distance us. Anthony Fauci, the World Health Organization, and the United Nations, the presidents of Russia, the president of China, the president of North Korea, any dictatorship, whatever you think that you are going to do. My father said, never forget, he answers to no one, not even I. I know my position that I play. Now know yours. At this moment that this is aired or whatever, that you hear about this, you have confirmation that I, Terrence Emmanuel Dita Bassi, am Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And I'm here to defend my Father's creation. As a man, my emotions got in the way. From an emotional perspective, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would be the candidate that I would have voted for. But in the best interest of our children, as we see Donald Trump, the things that he did it so that he can get the glory. But you can only do bad after you do good. So you've done the work that my father needed to be done, and there's more for you to do. But when that is done, just know you're at my mercy, and you will stand before me. You will stand before the world to answer for the deaths that you have caused with intention. I had to be reminded by my father that there are things that I cannot see, that I have no control over. I don't know how I came to be. Does not change the fact in who I am. I have to adhere to the same rules that are laid out in the written word, which is the Holy Bible. So whatever other traditions, religions that you subscribe, you have my teachings of my father that I had to adhere to as a man. Everything, the word has a message in it for each individual person. That is why it is important for you to understand the word yourself. Your interpretation determines where you're going. But that is upon the truth and reality that you accept to live. You have unlimited capabilities. You've mastered many of them. But the one that you've mastered the most, that if you're not willing to loosen the chains for yourself, break the chains for yourself, is you have to choose to live in truth and reality. And that means accepting the things that you've done and said. That's where the beauty of growth is. Where you are at now is no different than any other time in your life. It is just now you are consciously aware of it because life is a cycle. It repeats itself. When you go from elementary to middle school to high school, or high school to college, that is a change in the world that what you knew, you have to adapt. But it was something, it was a plan, a structure already laid out. But when your responsibilities change, there is no plan for that because it changes depending on your life experiences. And we know this as adults because we know it as children. Take the time out to look at the children. Remember that you were once there. And sometimes unconsciously, the children feel left out because they are kept out of the loop. And when I mean out of the loop, adults know how to speak to children at their level. Don't just tell a child a lie to cover up a truth because it is one that you have to come back to address. And children, just as adults, don't want to be caught off guard. We know that adults, we didn't want to be caught off guard when we were children. So we have to stop doing that. And sometimes we do it unconsciously. But once you become aware that you're doing that, then you need to stop. And this is something that many parents and guardians who actually talk to their children, they don't have that problem. Because when you talk to your children, rather talking at them and telling them your opinion, they can come into their own understanding because you talk to them at a level in which they understand. And it changes as they get older, which is life. Where you are at is no different than any other time in your life or any other obstacle. It's just now you're aware of it. It is something that we all must go through. No one can avoid it. But when you're going through it, you're not thinking about the things that you're thinking about at this time. Because those things that you're thinking about are emotionally impacted, emotionally filled. Now it's time for you to unpack those emotions, which means that you have to be willing to be vulnerable. And how I know that you are vulnerable is because if you've listened to this message thus far, you're searching for something. And it is not for me to tell you what that is. I'm just a tool and resources to help you, to guide you, so that you can reflect on your own experiences and recognize the magic in your life. Because as adults, we understand it to be blessings or luck, whatever you want to call it. As children, we see it as magic because the things that we hear and have heard about Jesus, about God. But the younger that we are, we don't know the names. We're looking for what was interesting. That doesn't change when you are having a conversation as an adult. You're not worried about the damn person's name. You want the details. That is what children look at. We forget that as adults. So they see the magic. And it is magic. It's just magic that you created that only you can do. So at this point, I am going to address the children. I just want to answer a question. It's how did I know that God was real? Before I knew who God was when I got older. And the best way that I can explain it is how I knew God was real is not only did my grandparents tell me about God, they showed me. And for me, God did amazing things that was unimaginable. So, for me, when I knew God was real, was when I would be in the garden with my grandparents and the rest of the family, and we would plant seeds. And in a few months, something would grow. I couldn't understand it. How did this happen? My grandmother said God can do anything. That little seed created something so amazing. Just as you are. We started as this little bitty tiny thing, and you grow into something amazing. And how you know that magic is real is because think about it. Remember those times that you thought about something, you said, oh, I want that to happen. And it happens? That was magic. You don't know how it happened, but it was magic to you because you thought of it. And if it's something that you created, it was magic because you thought it and you put it together. Nobody else thought it. That's what makes us different. That's what makes you different. Is what you grow into to show the world that I can do many different things. God is everywhere. And as children, we know that. No matter where we are. as children, as a child, I never heard any children question God. It was the adults. That's why the love of God is there before anyone can try to break it. That is why you are still here. Because of love. Because you love yourself. I had no idea where my life was going to go down, the path. But I knew it was to change something. I just did not know what. But when I came to understand it, I want each of you to know that I took it on willingly as well. That's the thing about God. He doesn't force us to do anything we don't want to do. That is why I would not change a thing in my life. When I knew that I kept going. I kept going. Because all the love that I got, I want to make sure that all the children of the world get it. Oh, oh, I'm grateful. I truly am. Thank you for your love. Thank you for the love that you give the world. I'm going to end the video because I don't even know what to say at this point. But as always, I know that God is in control.